and by PACC Health Plans, pioneering managed care, meeting the health care needs of individuals and businesses of all sizes.
Good evening. I'm Jim Lara in Washington.
And I'm Robert McNeil in New York. After the news summary this Wednesday, we look at the first full day for the U.S. Marines in Somalia and their next objectives. Next, we discuss the ethics guidelines announced today for top appointees in the Clinton administration. Are they too tough or not tough enough?
Funding for the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour has been provided by PepsiCo. Part of helping the world live and communicate better is keeping it well informed. That's why funding for the NewsHour is also provided by AT&T and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and viewers like you.
U.S. military commanders said Operation Restore Hope was proceeding well and mostly as expected in Somalia today. Marines secured key sections of the capital, Mogadishu, although fighting between rival Somali clans continued elsewhere in the country. The first Mercy flight of relief aid arrived in the capital, while helicopters and hovercraft ferried a force of 1,700 Marines and their equipment from ships offshore. The troops quickly set up checkpoints and took control of the city's port, its airport, and the U.S. Embassy compound. They encountered no organized resistance, but United Nations relief officials said one of their workers was shot in the arm in unspecified circumstances. The Marines' next objective will be to secure inland airports from warring local gangs. We'll have more on this Somalia story right after the news summary. Robin?
President-elect Bill Clinton put out new ethics rules today. Transition Director Warren Christopher said about 1,100 appointees must pledge not to lobby their prospective government agencies for 5 years after leaving office. Christopher was asked by reporters in Little Rock whether that might discourage qualified people from serving in the government.
It's possible to imagine that the people who are in Washington and had tended to go into government for a short time and then come back out and practice will be discouraged by that or appear in Washington as lobbyists. That's exactly the kind of vice we're trying to get at, and if some of those people are excluded, I would think that really is the price of these rules, and we think it's a fair price to pay.
We'll have more on the ethics rules later in the program. A special counsel said today there was not enough evidence of wrongdoing by the Bush administration to warrant a court-appointed prosecutor for the so-called Iraq-Gate scandal. The case involved $5.5 billion in illegal loans to Iraq through an Italian bank in Atlanta. Former federal judge Frederick Lacy said accusations against the Bush administration of a cover-up were nonsense, generated in part by the news media. Former CIA spy chief Claire George was convicted today on 2 counts of lying to Congress about his knowledge of the Iran-Contra affair. He was cleared of charges that he lied to a grand jury. George faces a maximum 10 years in prison and $500,000 in fines. Sentencing is scheduled for February.
The death toll from Hindu-Muslim fighting in India reached nearly 700 today. The riots began 3 days ago after Hindu militants destroyed a Muslim mosque in a northern holy town. The government cordoned off that town today and imposed curfews in many others. Many Hindu fundamentalist leaders have been arrested. Their followers protested those arrests and observed a nationwide general strike. At least 210 people have died in a landslide in Bolivia. Hundreds of others are missing. The slide buried a remote gold mining camp in the northern part of the South American nation. It happened yesterday and was blamed on torrential rains.
The Bush administration has reportedly decided not to push for enforcement of the Bosnian no-fly zone. Such a move was urged on the NewsHour last night by former Secretary of State George Shultz. Serbs have repeatedly broken the United Nations ban on military flights over the former Yugoslav Republic. Administration sources told the Associated Press the Pentagon and several allied nations oppose seeking a new UN resolution authorizing force. In the Bosnian capital, Sarajevo, Serbs withdrew from a key road, but fighting continued elsewhere. We have a report narrated by Vera Frankel of Worldwide Television News.
The start of the winter offensive has shaken Sarajevo, but not the resolve of its people. Serb tanks have pulled back from the road that links the city to the airport, ensuring aid gets in. Serbs have also offered safe passage for anyone who wants to leave. Many don't.
We all would like to stay here, and if he really wants to do us a favor, just stop the shelling, okay?
Then a reminder of just how brutal this war can be. A missile fired from the hills around the city hit people waiting for bread. Its aim indiscriminate. 5 people were killed and more than 30 others were seriously injured. The United Nations will not resume relief flights for fear of attack. On the ground, however, help is on its way. A convoy of 11 trucks has arrived in Lukovica on the outskirts of the Bosnian capital, carrying food, drugs and clothing. More than 1,000 boxes marked for specific addresses with help for the suffering of Sarajevo.
The Russian Congress today rejected Boris Yeltsin's reformist prime minister. The decision by the Congress, dominated by hardliners, was a personal snub for Yeltsin. It could also be a setback for the government's free market reform program. Despite the rejection, Yegor Gaidar will be able to remain as acting prime minister for at least 3 months. He's held that position since June.
The Federal Reserve today reported economic activity is picking up at a modest pace around the United States. It cautioned that the improvement was uneven and noted weakness in California. General Dynamics Corporation announced plans today to sell its jet fighter division to Lockheed. The deal will cost Lockheed more than $1.5 billion and make it the second largest defense contractor in the country. The Space Shuttle Discovery landed today at Edwards Air Force Base in California. It had been scheduled to come in at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, but that was canceled because of low clouds. Discovery's 5 astronauts had been on a 7-day mission for the Defense Department.
Britain's Prince Charles and Princess Diana have agreed to separate but will not divorce. That news was announced today by British Prime Minister John Major in a highly unusual session of Parliament. Major said the royal couple would continue to carry out their public duties despite the separation. Norman Reese of Independent Television News reports.
Cheers and applause for Prince Charles today from well-wishers at Holyhead in Anglesey. It was the day that would put an end to the speculation, but there was no sign of the announcement to come, just business as usual. Separate engagements for the Princess of Wales, nearly 200 miles away at Tyne and Wear. If she was under strain, she wasn't showing it. The crowds had no idea the announcement was imminent. The Princess on one of those walkabouts that shows the special position she's established for herself. In the House of Commons, the Prime Minister broke the news to the nation.
I wish to inform the House that Buckingham Palace are at this moment issuing the following statement. It reads as follows. It is announced from Buckingham Palace that with regret, the Prince and Princess of Wales have decided to separate. Their Royal Highnesses have no plans to divorce, and their constitutional positions are unaffected.
The Prince of Wales is heading back to London tonight after a day in the Principality, a day in which he seemed to draw strength from the people he met. As did the Princess. A day for just carrying on, putting a brave face on things.
That's our summary of the news. Now it's on to the Marines in Somalia and Clinton's ethics rules.
The Marines have landed. The situation is well in hand, wrote journalist Richard Harding Davis from Panama in 1885. Similar words have come in the last 24 hours from Somalia. Our look at that situation begins with this report by Jeremy Thompson of Independent Television News.
D-Day in Somalia. Outlined against the moonlit Indian Ocean, the Spearhead force hit the beaches. Giant hovercraft disgorged the American Marines of Team Tiger with their light armored vehicles. Out at sea, the warships, the springboard of Operation Restore Hope. Overhead, wave upon wave of helicopters thundered in, carrying yet more troops to secure the airport and the docks. The UN peacekeepers who've been holding the fort here just looked on as this huge operation unfolded around them. Not everything went smoothly, though. Troop carriers got bogged down on the beach. Marines looked confused in the pre-dawn darkness. while one found it hard to get a foothold in Somalia. And every step covered by an all-enveloping media circus, beaming it back live to the States. But as the flares went up at the port, it was clear some Marines hadn't expected journalists. First, they fired on a group of 20 newsmen, then ordered them face down in the dirt at gunpoint. The Marines later claimed they'd been fired on by a sniper. The public relations exercise didn't improve when the Marines gave a handful of Somalis the same treatment back at the airport.
Hey, over, on your stump! You, roll over!
The apparently unarmed men had been sleeping in a hangar and looked visibly shaken by this rather heavy-handed action. A show of force and intimidation was clearly part of the tactics. The UN's commanding officer, clearly furious, quickly intervened, cutting the prisoners' bonds with his own penknife. But the Marines were in no mood for apologies.
Anyone we see approaching us in a technical, in one of those vehicles with machine guns or on foot or whatever, who's armed or appears to have some sort of hostile intent or even an ambiguous situation, we're gonna respond directly and forcefully and take control of the situation.
A point made all too forcefully as the Marines set up roadblocks around Mogadishu.
Get out! Get out!
Every weapon found was confiscated. Suddenly, the gunmen who'd brought terror to Mogadishu for so long seemed to vanish from sight, much to the delight of the onlooking crowds. In the absence of any hostility, they soon relaxed, making friends, handing out sweets, and just getting to know the locals. The Marines' intervention at the port means that 10,000 tons of food stuck in the warehouse will soon be on its way, and relief agencies seem pleased to see the troops.
What it's going to mean to us is we've got a secure environment. I mean, before here in the port, you had fighting, people being shot all the time. You couldn't unload the food. You had it being extorted. You had trucks coming in and driving off with food. You see what it's like now. We've got a perimeter wall up. We've got protection. When we bring the ship in next week, we're not going to have any of those problems that we had before.
So far, the giant transport planes have landed only men and machines. But within days, the task force will be pushing into the interior, securing the supply chain to the worst affected pockets of famine. But today, as the people of Mogadishu watched the gunships fly over, most just gave thanks.
We are feeling so happy as all Somali people we are just going to welcome with open hands here.
For a nation which has suffered so much at the hands of its own gunmen, the Americans were welcomed like a liberating army.
The official military briefing on where things stand in Somalia and what the forces do next came from the Pentagon this afternoon. Two officers from the staff of the Joint Chiefs briefed reporters. They said the situation is secure in Mogadishu, but less so outside the capital. Here's an excerpt.
There had been factional fighting in the area of Baidogo, but over the last couple of days that has subsided substantially. And the security situation, I can report to you now, seems to be adequate in Baidogo. We had also seen fairly heavy fighting in the city of, not the airport of, but in the city of Baidoa for the last couple of days. That, too, seems to have subsided. And we have reports now that the security situation in Baidoa is beginning to right itself, so to speak. In the south, in Bardera, we had very heavy confrontation between two faction groups within about the last 72 hours. The one faction group that was trying to take over has been repulsed, and the situation in Bardera seems to be slowing down. You've probably seen and heard of most of the press reports about fighting going in Kismayo today. I can confirm independently that that is also true. So the situation in Kismayo in terms of interfactional vying for authority is not as good as in some of the other areas. In the northern part of the country, we also had a group that had come out from Mogadiscio and had proceeded up into the northern part of Somalia. They were met once again by an opposing faction and repulsed them back down into this area. So I guess I would characterize overall the security situation as certainly satisfactory. In Mogadiscio, there is nothing there that so far we haven't anticipated. And also, as we begin to move out and continue the operation, it looks as though but we're obviously monitoring this very carefully, that the security situation at those airfields and so on where we will go in future is beginning to resolve itself.
General, is there any indication that these troops, these individuals who have fallen back into the interior, into the south, may be doing so to regroup, watch what you do, perhaps take on your troops when you're farther inland, farther away from supplies, when communications may be stretched?
I can only tell you that what our concern is that we are able to control the security zone that we established, and the forces that are operating in a threat to that zone are going to be dealt with. What they're doing in areas other than that, right now, we don't know.
You spoke earlier of this fighting between factions that had heated up in Kismayo and some of the other places around the country. What's your assessment of how this is affecting the relief efforts?
I think that there has been a period, and I will just characterize it this way, over the last couple of days, 3 or 4 days, of the various factions trying to establish what they can establish, because this is well announced in the UN security resolutions and the fact that we were coming in. And so, shall we say, to obtain the best position that they could relative to each of the cities and the areas that they control. So there certainly has been some increased fighting over the last 72 hours. Having said that, we're beginning, and matter of fact, it started about the time the Marines hit the ground last night. We're beginning to see this subside, and I'm confident that as we go into these forward airfields, as the plan is laid out, that we're going to see hopefully the same kind of situation that we witnessed in Mogadishu.
What are the disarming practices on a one-to-one level? Is if a Marine sees a Somali with a gun, is it automatically taken away, or only if that gun is brandished in a threatening way?
Inside the Marine security zone, which is established by the commander on the scene, there will be no weapons permitted.
On patrols outside that area?
I'm going to say anything that you're patrolling is inside the security zone, so there will be no weapons permitted. Now, 3 additional perspectives on the operation so far. They are those of retired Marine Major General Fred Haynes, retired Somalian Army Brigadier General Abukar Liban, and Robert Seipel, president of World Vision, a relief organization that has been active in Somalia since 1980. He was a Marine combat pilot during the Vietnam War. He joins us tonight from Los Angeles. General Haynes, militarily, it looks like things are going pretty well up to this point. Would you not agree?
Well, it does, and I think we can feel fairly confident that, for the time being at least, casualties are likely to be super light. I expect some accidental ones, but I don't think they're going to run into any major fighting. At some point, Jim, as the forces spread out toward this half a dozen or so airfields or airstrips where supplies will be taken in, we will probably have some testing on the part of local gangs or warlords, but my friend Abukar probably has a better idea about that than I do at the moment.
I want to ask him about that too, but just how would you interpret, it would seem to me the way to interpret what the Marine General just said at that briefing about arms is that the perimeter is defined as to wherever there's a U.S. Marine, and if he sees a weapon, he's going to take it.
That's right, and I think it's a very good policy.
Yeah,
very good.
General Liban, what about how do you explain the lack of military resistance up to now? Do you expect it to increase, or do you expect it to remain as peaceful as it has been thus far?
Well, first of all, I think it's extremely important what we see achieved in the first phase, that there is no casualties, there is no resistance from the part of the factional leaders, from gangs also. And I think that's due to a tremendous work done on the ground by so many people, including the United States government people from the State Department and from the Defense Department, the local leaders, the local leader factions also. I think that's all the work of all these people put together.
You said on this program last week, or 10 days ago, I think it was, that the important thing was that the word had to get out to the people in Somalia as to why these American Marines were coming. And is your interpretation that word got out effectively?
I'm very glad it got out, and I am very glad also that you especially contributed to that. I think we have a very comfortable situation now from where we can start again to the next phase, which is the problem of the interior. Again, I think concerning the interior, although there is no communication means, like Mogadishu, where you have radio broadcasting and so on, what you can use is very primitive instruments like loudspeakers on mobile Land Rovers or Jeeps, something like that, in the regions, and talking to people, repeating the same message, which has been...
they said today they were going to drop some leaflets in those areas
correct.
as well.
But
you say there's no communication from Mogadishu out, but aren't there ways for people in the outlying cities and towns to get word that everything is peaceful in Mogadishu, that the Marines have not come in there and started shooting people and all of that? Is that kind of information going to get out on its own, do you think?
I think it's already there. Everybody almost knows today that Marines are there to help only, and they haven't done anything. They haven't killed anyone, and so on and so forth. But still, to get the word out of Mogadishu, I think there are so many ways to use. For instance, you can use the elders to send them to the regions so they can explain to the people. Mm-hmm. And also this method of using these mobile loudspeakers on mobile means, repeating the same message and so on.
I guess the ultimate key is going to be getting food to these folks who are starving. And once they begin to see that, and that it's done in a peaceful way, Jim, I have to think that the immediate problem will begin to fade. Because warring factions cannot exist in any community that feels like it is being reasonably served. And I have a sense that the immediate problem will fade once we start getting Mr. Seifel's food out to these folks.
What about, General Haynes, though? There was some rough stuff we saw there on that tape. How do you explain that?
Yep, we saw some rough stuff, and I have to tell you that when you're going into a situation that you're not fully aware of what the consequences may be, of what may happen, you have to be tough, and you have to protect yourself and have to protect your own Marines and your own Army folks, and we'll see the same thing perhaps in several other areas. But the big thing is we want to get the weapons out of the hands of these gangsters, these warlord folks, and set up a situation that's reasonably peaceful and secure.
Mr. Seifel, from the relief agency's point of view, how is this operation, how does it look to you 24 hours in?
Well, a lot of our operational work is located in Badoa, and frankly, I'm a little bit frustrated that there were not concurrent landings. For the life of me, cannot figure out why it all went to Mogadishu. Everything that you heard about increased activity in the countryside is true. Our folks have been at risk for some time in Badoa. There's been tremendous fighting in Badoa. Badoa is one of the worst places, and everyone is kind of low there.
Excuse me, how far is Badoa from Mogadishu?
About 200 kilometers, 160 miles, more or less. And when you begin to push people out of Mogadishu, of course, as they run for borders or run for next stops, there's every potential reason for them to stop in Badoa. But the fighting has been intense there. There have been hundreds who have been shot in the last couple of days, and this interrupts the supply lines as we have them now.
What's the fighting about, and who's doing the fighting?
Well, it's more the warlords. It's more people that are jockeying for position. They know the Marines are coming. I do think the communication in this African nation is very, very good. It may not be effective, or excuse me, efficient, but it's certainly very, very effective. Everybody knows the Marines are coming. There's a tremendous and a healthy respect for the U.S. military because of the Gulf War. It's this gap between when the Marines say they're going to go in and when they get there. And that's why the time of uncertainty has increased, because we've only landed them in Mogadishu. I would have loved to have seen them land in Mogadishu, Badoa, Badera, and maybe in Kismayo as well at the same time.
Would that have been possible logistically and militarily?
Absolutely. There's probably a reason why it wasn't. I don't know it, and we fought to have it done that way in terms of our input in Washington and with the U.S. government. It would have made it a lot safer. Maybe in a couple of days we'll look back, heave a sigh of relief, and say, well, nothing bad happened because it didn't work out that way. But right now, it's a very critical time for it.
Those are all good points. I think one of the basic problems, of course, is the problem of time in movement. I mean, you can't do it simply overnight without some preparation. But I think fairly quickly we'll see the kind of situation that is now existing in the outer countryside begin to fade, because we have the 10th Mountain Division going in. There should be probably daily a large infusion of light infantry, and they ought to be able to move out and hopefully ease the problem for your folks out in the field. Let me just make one other point. I think a lot of folks think that the Marines and the Army are bringing in the food to feed these folks. Now, that's not true, if I'm correct. It is the Marines and the Army folks are in there, and the Navy, who will be going in with CBs and whatnot, are there to provide security and ensure that folks get fed. The food is yours, I think.
That's absolutely right. We've been there for a few months. We've been there when the first military operation started, Operation Provide Relief. That was very effective. It gave backbone to the entire effort there. At this point in time, we still have food, and we're still keeping our food centers open. And obviously, once the people stop shooting at one another, it is going to be incredibly more easy to get that food to starving kids, keep them alive.
Your concern is that some people may have died unnecessarily in Badoa and these other places just because the Marines couldn't get there quickly enough, or didn't get there quickly enough.
We don't know that. I think what our concern certainly is this gap between when you say you're going to go in and when you actually arrive. There's a lot of jockeying for position. Everybody has said the fighting has intensified, the fighting has picked up. And I understand militarily blocks of time and how long it takes to move something from A to B to C. What we are seeing are the faces of real people, the faces of staff. World Vision has an infrastructure on the ground there, and they're terribly at risk until something happens to reduce the increased fighting. Certainly the Marines are going to do that, and then we will do what we do best, namely continue to keep children alive.
General DeBan, I realize nobody knows, but what's your best guess as to what the level of armed resistance from this point on, as they go to Badoa and they go to the other towns, what do you think it's going to be?
It's going to be a very limited one. It can't be an organized arm or organized attack on the troops. It can't be that way. It could be some sort of ambush or some sort of very small, limited group, but it will not be an organized one.
Is it possible for the Marines, assuming that you're correct and it's a very limited thing, are the Marines going to be able, just on the just going where they're going to go, to be able to make a sizable dent in the arms that are in there, in that country?
Oh yes, they can.
They can. In other words, they can find them and they can confiscate them and get rid of them and do major work as far as de-arming the country?
Especially in the regions, in the regional headquarters, in the village, they can do that. But when you go to the nomadic area, it's very difficult because people are moving in places where there is no roads, there is no village, it's just an open area, and you can't find out someone just in the middle of a desert. It's very difficult.
General Haynes, finally, there's been a lot of heat generated in Washington today about the TV lights and all of that greeted the SEALs and then the first wave of Marines last night. And there were reportedly a lot of people at the Pentagon, professional military, very upset about that. How do you read that whole situation?
Well, I think they were upset about it, probably for the reason that it's not the way it was planned to happen. People showed up. They heard things were going to happen. The journalists did, and there they were. It doesn't bother me. I have to tell you that I think that the landings were conducted properly. People went in providing for the appropriate security. We didn't know what it was like. Sure. Nobody did. And I think it was okay. I wouldn't worry more. I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. Let's put it that way.
Mr. Seipel, do you agree or disagree with that?
Well, I think it was unfortunate. I think everyone in the military would feel that was a bad thing to have happen. I think ultimately it's in the Pentagon to look into its closet and find out how the intelligence and communication happened that SEALs, Navy SEALs, were met by CNN. That's a little strange.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Seipel, generals, thank you, all three.
Thanks, Jim.
Still ahead on the NewsHour, Clinton's ethics rules for top appointees. But first, this is Pledge Week on PBS. We're taking a short break now so that your public television station can ask for your support. That support helps to keep programs like this on the air.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Margie Boulay from the Oregonian. We here at Oregon Public Broadcasting tonight need to take just a few minutes to talk to those of you who may have received the message about our pledge drive but don't quite know how to react to it. We'll be back to the McNeil-Lehrer program in just a moment. But we know you're already watching public television. Now we would like you to pledge your support. The telephone numbers are right across the screen. We'd like you to go to your telephone now if this program means a lot to you, if you depend on it for good news, for good interpretation of the news, for good analysis. Please go to your phone now and call us with a pledge. The number 245-2345, or outside the Portland area, toll-free 1-800-245-2346. The phones are ringing already. That's good to hear. If you pledge at the $150 level during this broadcast of the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour, our gift to you is the VCR Plus Programmer. This handy unit enables you to automatically record shows by simply punching in a few numbers. It's a lot easier than doing it the old-fashioned way. Also, we want you to know that if you are willing to give us a pledge now of $150, you will be sent a copy of this book. It's the first of what is supposed to be a trilogy of biographies of JFK. This one is entitled JFK Reckless Youth. It's been well reviewed. It's been very controversial, particularly with the Kennedy family. I can't put it down, to tell you the truth. If you call now with a pledge of $150, we will send this book to you. So dial our simple phone number right now. Just pick up your phone. You know you've been thinking about doing it if you watch regularly. In Portland, 245-2345, or toll-free 1-800-245-2346 from anywhere else in Oregon. Jim?
Thanks, Margie. That VCR Plus is really great, isn't it? It stores up to 14 shows at a time. Hi, I'm Jim Newman, and I'd like to remind you that OPB has many ways for you to fulfill your pledge. Credit cards are always convenient, and we take Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and the Discover card, too.
We also have an electronic funds transfer system. All you have to do is make your pledge, and our volunteers, and tonight we have some really nice folks from REI, and also some pledge underwriters from the Timberline Lodge ski area. They'll help you set up a plan where a set amount is automatically deducted from your checking account every month. And if this no-hassle method of payment is best for you, call us right now. In fact, whatever method of payment you prefer, we'll bill you. You can put it on your credit card or you can use the automatic deduction. In Portland, call 245-2345. Elsewhere in Oregon and southern Washington, wherever you may be watching us, call toll-free 1-800-245-2346. Let's keep these telephones ringing. Jim?
And tonight at the $60 pledge level, we're offering the 1993 Oregon Field Guide calendar as a premium. Oregon Public Broadcasting sent out invitations to 125 area photographers asking them to shoot the most picturesque scenes of Oregon. 12 of the best were selected. And you don't have to go very far, you know, to find beautiful scenes around here. So you can imagine how difficult it was choosing the finest ones, but we did it. The final shots are amazing, and you can only get it here.
That's really true. The calendar is beautiful. The photographs are really a wonderful way in which they've captured the beauty of our state. Or if you prefer, at the same $60 level, instead you can choose OPB's outstanding sand-etched mug. Now, they want me to tell you this is not imprinted. It's a design that's actually been cut into the mug itself. And they say it's the most outstanding mug ever offered by Oregon Public Broadcasting. So it can be yours with a $60 contribution. Once again, to make that clear, if you pledge $60 now, you can choose between the Oregon Field Guide calendar or the mug. And we might add, the mug isn't available anywhere else either. Again, the numbers to call in Portland, 245-2345, and we give you that number because that's what makes the phone ring. 245-2345 from anywhere else in our viewing area, all of Oregon and southern Washington, toll-free, 1-800-245-2346. But if you wish, your basic pledge of $35 makes you an automatic subscriber to Oregon Focus magazine. That's right, you become a member of Oregon Public Broadcasting when you subscribe the $35 level, and Oregon Focus magazine will be sent to your home. In addition to all of our television and radio programs listed in there, Focus also provides the VCR Plus codes for easy recording. There are previews of upcoming programs and interviews with producers and actors from some of the month's special shows. So, as you can see, it's a wonderful guide. So pick up your telephone in Portland, 245-2345, or toll-free 1-800-245-2346 from anywhere else in the state.
In addition to Oregon Focus magazine, your OPB membership earns you the Ticket to Oregon Discount Pass. You'll get discounts to museums, concerts, theater, and dance events throughout the state. But then there's always something of quality, wonderful programs that you can see without traveling anywhere beyond your living room.
Hi, I'm Dick Constam. I'm the operator of Timberline Lodge for the last 36 years now, and I've always loved the programming on OPB. I'm one of their favorite listeners and enjoy such programs as Oregon Field Guide and Northwest Week. I think my real favorite, though, is Bill Moyers. I think he kind of attracted me to the station in the first place. But I think the Portland community really has to get behind OPB. You can't expect it to go by itself. It has to be supported by businesses like Timberline and others. So I'd hope you'd kind of follow me and really support these folks, because the programming is wonderful. And don't take them for granted.
That was recorded just several weeks ago, and Dick Constam happens to be in the studio this evening supporting Oregon Public Broadcasting along with a group of people from Timberline Lodge. Let's make it worth their while that they came down here tonight by making the telephones ring. They would like very much to take your pledges. OPB is the place to be for in-depth news coverage. If you're a regular viewer of McNeil-Lehrer, I know you will agree with that. It is an outstanding program. You can keep in touch with the world by watching the Nightly Business Report, which comes before the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour, 5 nights a week.
Then to recap the week in news, on Fridays you can add Washington Week in Review, Wall Street Week, and our own local broadcast of Northwest Week. And don't forget that if you donate in the $150 range tonight, you can get that wonderful new book by Nigel Hamilton called The Reckless Youth, which is a biography of JFK. It's about 800 pages long. If you try to pick it up at the library, no doubt you can get it if you wait, but then you'll have to give it back in 3 weeks and wait for who knows how long before you can get it again. Better to donate and own a copy for yourself. If you are calling from Portland, remember the number is 245-2345, or for your convenience, we have a toll-free number for pledges coming from anywhere in our viewing area, and that is 1-800-245-2346. Margie?
You know, I want to tell you that this copy of Reckless Youth will cost you $30 in the bookstore. So if you call now with a pledge of $150, you know you're giving $150 to Oregon Public Broadcasting, and you can feel very good about supporting Oregon Public Broadcasting, and at the same time you get a $30 book as well. So it's really a way to give yourself a Christmas present along with Oregon Public Broadcasting. Again, if you call with a pledge of $150, you can choose between a copy of this book or the VCR Plus.